So welcome to our final Meet the Author event of our winter reading series. I'm Rachel. I'm the Adult Outreach and Event Coordinator for the Greenville County Library System. And I'm so glad to see all of you here. Excited to hear from Ann B. Ross. We're going to speak with her in just a moment. It's going to be a fun, interactive evening. If you're watching this live, of course, please put your questions in the chat. You can ask anything and everything, and we will be directing those questions to Ann as we go throughout the evening. So please do go ahead and put your questions in there. We are so excited to wrap up winter reading. If you haven't already, do finish out your little bingo card. All you have to do is complete one row and you can earn some fun completion prizes like this winter reading tote or pastry from Swamp Rabbit Cafe and Grocery. You can fulfill that at any of your library locations. If you want more information, go to greenvillelibrary.org/winter-reading. So you'll definitely want to check that out. If you're interested in more of these wonderful virtual events, make sure you check out our event calendar. That's greenvillelibrary.org/events. There you can register for virtual ones like this. You can see where our in-person events are happening, and you don't want to miss a moment. So now we're so excited to welcome Ann B. Ross, author of the famous Miss Julia series. I'm just going to read a quick little biographic detail about her, and then we will get started. So Ann has 3 children and 6 grandchildren. She was a self-professed late bloomer, having earned a PhD in her early 50s from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, taught at UNC at Asheville afterwards, and she's written 23 Miss Julia novels since then and working on number 24. I think that's right. We're so happy to welcome you with us, Ann.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. It's good to be here. Well, no, it's not good to be here. I wish I were there with you all. I would love to see your faces, but thank you for having me. And Rachel just told me to talk about anything I wanted to, and I might just use this hour to talk about my grandchildren, but I think I won't do that. But I wanted to tell you, and she said, I truly hope that Miss Julia is a real person and not just somebody you made up. Well, she's not a real person, but also she wasn't just made up either. The only way I can describe it is that she just appeared to me in my mind, and I gradually got to know her. She first revealed herself to me by my realizing that I was hearing a voice in my head. And this voice kept saying things that I was too strictly raised to say out loud myself, but I didn't recognize them for that. But this woman did not mind speaking up for herself or to tell somebody off if they needed to be told off. So she often surprised me by what she said and what she says to other people, the other characters and so on. So it was mostly the sound of her voice that I came to know first and best. But gradually I began to see more and more of her and to see who it was that was doing all this talking. The first picture I have of her is that she was wearing a white winter coat. She had a little hat on her head, and a pocketbook was dangling from one arm. And with the other hand, she was holding the hand of a little boy. I was gradually able to see who it was that was doing all this talking, but I could never see her in the face. So I kept watching what she was wearing. And when I first saw her, she was walking away from me. Both of them were walking away from me on a sidewalk. And I kept wondering, where are they going? What are they going to do? And I finally realized that they were walking toward Main Street. And probably, since the little boy was a little fuzzy around the head, they were going to the barber shop. But I'm not sure. I never got her to the barber shop. But she was wearing this white winter coat and naturalizer shoes with a little heel and that little hat on her head and that pocketbook dangling from one arm. and holding the hand of this little boy. And she was fairly tall with excellent posture. And I could tell that she was of a certain age by the steel gray color of her hair, but I could not see her face. I could never get this woman to turn around so I could see what she looked like in the face. Now, after 22 or so books, 23, 20, every time I count up these books, I get a different number. But I think it depends on whether you count the Etta Mae book. Some people do and some people don't. But anyway, after that many books, I have never gone into detail about how she looks in the face. And I'm beginning to think that she probably looks just like you think she looks. But my attention was soon drawn to the little boy whose hand she was holding. Up to this point, I had not written one word of the first book. Really had not even thought about writing. Just got more and more interested in why these two kept appearing in my mind. I'd go to bed at night, close my eyes and say my prayers. And then all of a sudden, here was this woman and this little boy moving around in my head. But even more intriguing was when I realized that the boy was the spitting image of this woman's husband, Wesley Lloyd Springer, although it was obvious that she could not be his mother because she was only about 8 or 9 years old. He was scrawny, he was small for his age, a little bit freckled with glasses that kept sliding down his nose. My concern was, first of all, who was he? Why was he with this woman? Where were they going? I tried all sorts of possibilities. He was a grandchild, I thought. No, because she didn't have any children. He was a neighbor's child, could have been, or a foster child, but nothing worked until I suddenly realized who that child was. And that was when I started the very first chapter of that very first book, when Julia DeWitt Springer tells Lillian what else Wesley Lloyd had left her. So the books were then off and running, although at the time I had no thought of writing more than that one book. In fact, when I finished, both Julia and I thought that she had said everything she had to say in that first book. And when things kind of worked out that one of the, well, it was Penguin, wanted 3 more books, I didn't sleep that night. I could not, how am I going to write that? I'd never really done that much writing. And I was so afraid, well, maybe I just can't do it. But once it got started, Miss Julia wrote those books. I didn't. She was the one that tells the stories, and somehow or another, from the mind to the hand to the keyboard, out they come. But I would love to know what some of you have to ask or would like to know.
Yes, someone did make a comment in the chat. Can you imagine Miss Julia going to the barber shop?
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing what the mind can come up with.
Absolutely. Well, and we've heard from some authors who have a couple of books out, 2 or 3, and they talk about their arduous writing process, but you have over 20. So I imagine you have a very tight writing schedule. Do you keep a pretty strict routine for yourself?
Until COVID came along.
Mm-hmm.
That shattered everything. But yes, I like to write, get something written every day. That makes the day go. And I do it early. Get up and I do get dressed. I'm always afraid somebody's going to come to the front door. Nobody ever has in all these 20 years, but I'm dressed if they do. And I like to get something written. One scene is perfect to get one scene written. And I always had to turn in a complete manuscript in early September. So I had to plan out my year by that time. And then, of course, we went through copy editing and all of that in order to have a book out in April. April was Miss Julia's month.
Oh, wow. Okay. That is a pretty tight schedule to produce it all
Well,
within the
he
year.
he really did. And then COVID came and messed up everything.
Right. Well, we've got some more questions coming in. So
Okay.
someone asks, why did you end the series? And is there any chance of picking it back up?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, actually, I did not end the series, but it occurred right at the time. Let's see, not this past year. Maybe it was the year before that, which would be 2020. I was getting ready to go on tour for the book that year, and everybody, all of the publishing houses, just stopped all the tours because you can't go to the hotel, you can't do all of these other things, and so that really stopped our routine schedule. And since there was one more book to come, which was last year's book, and they told me then through my agent that they were going to stop the series at that time. And anyway, but I think that I will always have to have something in the works. And so I do have something in the works.
Well, that's exciting. Even if it's just a dream, people can hang on to that. People can hang on to that. Yeah. No, I don't think you're alone at all. And yeah, I see some people, yay, in the comments.
Oh, good. I'm glad we're on the same.
We have another question. This is about audiobooks. So Cynthia Darlow does a phenomenal job of narrating most of the books and bringing Miss Julia to life. Any chance of her reading Miss Julia Speaks Her Mind and Miss Julia Throws a Wedding?
Oh, what a good question. I do not know, but I will write somebody and try to find out. Yes, I have had more compliments on Cynthia, and I have never met her. I had nothing to do with hiring her. She works for, what is it, Books? Who is it that publishes?
Oh, the audiobooks. That's a good
Audios.
question. I'm not sure.
It's not Penguin Random House, which is who I deal with. But she is marvelous, and I will try to find. Is it just those two books that she doesn't do? I can check.
Those are the only two that the person mentioned, and I know that this person has listened to all of them. I guess they mentioned that too.
Well, sometimes they'll send me copies, and sometimes they won't, so I don't always have everything going.
Well, that would be wonderful. Okay, so here's another question we've got. Let's see. I really appreciate how Miss Julia handles the current social issues that exist today by staying true to herself and her faith. Were you pressured to incorporate or address those issues in the stories, or did you just come up with them on your own?
Oh, absolutely on my own. I've had no pressure to write one way or the other. But my editors, and I've had 3 or 4 over the years, they have never taken anything out or even suggested anything be taken out or changed or anything else. So maybe I've been fortunate in that.
Yeah, that's nice to have that kind of freedom.
Yes. I'm a little surprised, to tell the truth. So Miss Julia she attacks situations that kind of worry me, or that I try to deal with.
Yeah, I've heard from authors before that sometimes the way that they write a situation helps them process it themselves and really think through difficult problems.
Yes.
Let's see.
But
Well,
it's nice to have Miss Julia talk about these things and sometimes attack these things, I can stay out of the fray and let her have her say.
That's right. Let her do the work. I like that. Let's see, a related question to that one is Miss Julia comes across very believable, a very believable character. Where did most of the story ideas come from? And do you receive a lot of fan suggestions?
A lot of fans, what?
Fan suggestions.
Oh, suggestions. Yeah, I have. She wanted Miss Julia to be a den mother and take a group of Cub Scouts camping in the woods. But no, I'm not going to do that. Miss Julia would never do that. So I really, people will sometime now and then write, why doesn't she take a cruise or something? It's their general ideas rather than specific ones. And I find I choose things that have attracted me, things that are running around in my head. So that wasn't a very good answer, but
No, that makes perfect sense. I mean, you're the one who has to be with this character on this journey for the time that you're writing, so it needs to be
you got it. And day by day, every day. Yes.
right. So we've got a comment in the chat. I know you're in Hendersonville. Someone's asking, have you visited Spartanburg? You got the routes so correct.
Oh, I've been to Spartanburg several times. Yeah. And my husband was from Columbia. So, of course, when we visited there, we'd be going through Spartanburg. And my son is a graduate of Wofford College. And one of his sons is now a freshman at Wofford.
Oh,
So we feel very close to Spartanburg.
lots of connections there. That's great.
Yes.
Let's see. How old would you say Miss Julia is in her last installment?
I don't know how old she is, and I'll tell you the truth, I'm afraid to ask her. You would not ask a lady how old she is, so I just leave that. She's as old as you think she is.
I like that answer. Well, that gives you more flexibility too in your stories.
Yes, that's true.
I think that's wise. Well, did you realize when you were first starting out that Miss Julia was going to be such a popular and lovable character?
No, honey, I was surprised when they accepted the first book for publication. I really was. I don't know where I got the gumption or whatever it was to even send it off. But I did. This was right a year or two before emails became so popular. In fact, there were a good many agencies, literary agencies, who would not accept an emailed query.
Oh.
They wanted a typed one, and I typed one and told a little bit about, you know, what the book was about. This is when I finished the first one. And let's see, I sent a copy of that letter to 10 different agencies. There's a book, you probably have, what is it, a writer's market? Yeah, I used that, and I found about 10 agencies that were looking for modern fiction, no erotica, and all this other stuff, you know. And I sent out 10 query letters, and about 5 of them sent back postcards and said, sorry, we've got as many as we can handle. 4 did not even respond, and 1 said, send us 40 pages. So they were in the mail that afternoon. And then they called and said, we want to see the whole thing. And so I got it off, and then they called back and said, we can sell this. And so they did. And then the following year, I guess it did pretty well. According to the the contract, I was supposed to let them see my second book. They had first refusal, that first publisher, and they had 45 days with which to respond. And I was dealing, I did not know this at the time, with a very new young editor. And I kept pushing my agent at that time, call her and find out what's going on. You know, pretty soon the time's going to run out, Connie. She said, oh, you just wait, just wait, just wait. She wanted the time to run out so they could switch, we could switch to another publisher.
Oh.
And not just switch, but to open it up to any publisher. And that was when Penguin came in with a very accomplished editor, and she offered a contract for 3 books. And boy, that was a happy day. 3 books. And then I got sick to my stomach because how was I going to come up with 3 different ideas and write them in a certain amount of time? But anyway, it worked. And they kept renewing the contract every other year, 2 more books, 2 more books, 2 more books.
Well, that's amazing that you got a contract for 3 books like that.
I know it.
Yeah, that's incredible. A question that's popped up in the chat, since we're talking about the popularity of the Miss Julia books, are the Miss Julia books printed in any other languages?
Yes, I know they're being published in Italian now, and they've been in the Reader's Digest Spanish edition. And I believe I've got 1 book in Japanese, not the whole thing, just 1 book. And seems like there's another one in, I don't know, Greek maybe. So yes, but the interesting thing about it is none of the English publishers have picked it up because they say it's too Southern.
Oh,
Which is fine because I've gotten several emails, well, a good many emails from readers in England who have bought it through Amazon or something. So it works out.
That is one nice thing with having the internet available, is that people from anywhere can access your books, of course.
Exactly. Yes, that is the truth. No.
Okay, let's see. Oh, so another question that's come up is, do you have plans to write other books and other series away from Miss Julia?
Well, you know, I did with the Etta Mae book, kind of away from that. And some people absolutely love that book, and other people did not like it at all. So I don't know. I don't have any definite plans. So I don't know. I think about several things.
Yeah. Okay, keep your options open. You never know.
Never know. Because who would have thought the Julia books would have done so well?
Right.
I did not.
Well, and I will say I've heard from some authors too, like anytime they try an experiment, there are so many readers who like the comfort of the original series.
You are so right. That is true. That is true. Just not as good as.
Right. So that's where you get the pushback. They want that comfort. Okay, one person has asked, who was your inspiration for Miss Julia? Now, you did talk about that visual at the beginning of this, but do you have any other aspects that are inspired by someone else?
No, I have thought about that, but I really don't know anybody just like her. So she's sort of a mixture of a lot of different women that I've known, or maybe she's the woman I wish I was. You know, I don't know. And I think it would be very hard to write about a specific person. I would get tangled up into what's true and what's not true. It's better to be all one thing.
That makes a lot of sense. Because yes, if you were writing with a real person as the inspiration, you, I think, feel the complication of having to be so true to them and mannerisms and language and
Yeah.
everything.
Right, right. And so then you end up writing a biography, I suppose, or whatever. And then
Right.
you've got to be very correct about that. And you don't have the freedom of fiction. So anyway, do
Right.
you write?
I don't. I'm fascinated by the process, but I'm not a writer. Some of the attendees tonight, I think, are. I don't know if anyone wants to, you can turn on your video and you can speak to Anne directly if you'd like. Or of course, you can keep putting your questions in the chat. Either way is fine. But we have lots of aspiring writers tend to watch the Meet the Author events.
Oh,
'Cause,
great, great.
yes, good opportunity to pick your brain.
I'll just tell you one thing. Do it. Just go ahead and write. You can always dream about it and never get it done. You just really have to sit down and do it. You
Yeah.
won't know yourself if you can do it unless you try.
I think that's good advice. I think a lot of people have mentioned that the hardest step is to actually just start getting something down on the paper or on the
Exactly.
computer.
It is the hardest thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
So just
And I can write the most beautiful paragraphs in my mind in bed at 1 o'clock in the morning, and by next morning it's gone.
yeah,
So do it when you have it.
right. Yeah, I have heard that some people keep a notepad by their bed because of just that issue.
Yes.
Not a bad idea. Right. So one question that has come in is, which is your favorite Miss Julia book and why?
Ooh. Well, I guess I have to say the first one
Mhm.
because it started everything. And yet I picked it up a couple of weeks ago and just kind of glanced through the first chapter and I thought, ooh, I think I'd do this different now.
Yeah.
And so I stopped reading them again. But I love doing the Etta Mae book. And as I say, many people really did not like it. I think they were expecting a Miss Julia book and didn't get it. And that may have been part of it. Because then I've had several emails, one from a man who said that book had moved him to tears.
Oh,
I know. So who knows?
right.
Who knows?
Yeah, maybe the challenge of doing something outside of your normal wheelhouse was so
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah. And I have been fiddling a little with a nonfiction book, but I don't know whether I don't think I know enough.
Well, it's a completely different style, all the research you have to do.
Yes. So I don't know. Although when you're writing about somebody in the 4th century AD, who's going to check you?
Well, if you are ever struggling with research, I'm sure your local library will help you out.
That is true.
Shameless plug for the libraries. Well, one comment we've just received is, I like the way you have allowed Miss Julia to grow. I think,
Oh, what a wonderful compliment. Thank you. Because I read that somewhere years ago, that your main character in every book should grow a little or change in some way. It can be very small, but she or he needs to grow in some way. So I'm delighted that you think I'm doing it. I'm trying.
oh, that's great. So there's also been some rumors online of potential Miss Julia movies. There's been some chatter about that. I know I saw that on your website as well, where you were talking about a film adaptation, but do you hope for that? I know you said officially nothing is in the works, but what do you think?
Well, we have had, when I say we, I mean my agent and I have had so many contacts with somebody who wants to do either a feature film or made for television or just almost anything. And those people in Hollywood have the shortest attention spans. They call and they're so excited and they're thinking about, you know, this person and that person playing so and so and so and so. And they get me excited. And then you don't hear from them. They found something else.
Mm-hmm.
And so that has happened several times. But I do know that, well, Dolly Parton wrote me a letter. This was, in the early first or second book. And I've got it framed somewhere here. But she said she had bought copies of the first book for all her aunts and her sisters. And that she wanted me to know that if it was ever made into a movie, she had to play Hazel Marie because she said I look just like her.
Oh.
Sweet. And apparently Reese Witherspoon has been interested in the Etta Mae book. And there was somebody, you remember Evening Shade, the television program, and gosh, I can't remember. Anyway, the producer for that was really, who was what was the Dixie Carter one where they were designers?
Finding Women.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
She was the producer for that, and she was expressed a little bit of interest, but she knew how to do Southern.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't too much, and it was not, I would have loved for her to have done it. Anyway, there's been a lot of approaches, but nothing for real. They just lose interest or they find something else. And
yeah,
I tell you what, I would love for somebody to get it and it end up like Sheriff Andy Griffith.
Oh,
a program that runs forever, on and on, year after year, and
right.
people love them. I would love to see it do that.
Yes, that's definitely a beloved series for many, many people.
Yes. Oh.
A complimentary question to the one about your favorite book. The other question is, which one of your books was the hardest to write?
Ooh. They're all pretty hard. I start off like a ball of fire because I've got the starting idea and go on, and then I kind of get bogged down. I think they all were fairly easy. Once I get started, I can go on. I can't answer that. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. Well, and I can imagine too, once you complete it, you're on to the next one and you sort of forget about some of the struggles.
I really do. I really do. It's kind of like I shut that door and open the next one. And
right. Well, I see some questions that are coming in, ask about other writers and writing groups, but I know from your website that you've mentioned that you really don't have the kind of turnaround time where you can have a group of writing friends look at your work. Is that still accurate?
It certainly is. I would rather use that time to actually be working at the keyboard rather than, I mean, I miss the friendship because I was in a writing group years ago. Mm-hmm. It really was helpful, but even then I was writing way ahead. If you wait till it's your turn,
right?
So anyway, but if you're just getting started, I think it's a good way to go. You get some good feedback. Mm-hmm. Unless everybody there is your dear friend, don't want to hurt your feelings. You got to run into that.
Yeah, you need people who will be honest with you about your content.
That's exactly what I mean.
We are so grateful to you for sharing your time with us and giving us a little bit of an insight into the mind of such a prolific author.
Thank you. Delighted to be asked. I wish I were there with you so I could see everybody's faces.
That's right. That would have
Yeah.
been nice. Well, and of course, since this is virtual, we don't have a book signing like we normally would, but you can go to missjulia.com and find out where to purchase Anne's books, of course. So please do that, support her. And then you can also check out books from the library always. We've got the full collection.
And this is the latest book. Can you
That's-
see, can they see that?
Yes, yes, Miss Julia, Happily Ever After.
Right. And my editor came up with that title. And I got a whole lot of, do you mean you're going to quit?
Oh.
I didn't really mean to give that impression, but so be it.
Yes,
Oh.
I think there have been some people crying about that.
Oh, no, I don't think so. Oh. Well, you've just been wonderful. You're very easy and
Oh,
beautiful.
thank you so much. I appreciate that.
You are. You are.
I always enjoy having a nice conversation, a back and forth. I think this is a fun format and fun for the audience too.
Yes, yes, it was for me. Thank you.
More natural. Well, thank you so much. Everyone, join me in thanking Anne. We'll do virtual applause. Again, don't forget to check out missjulia.com. And of course, go to greenvillelibrary.org if you'd like to see any more of our events coming up, or to watch the recordings of any of our other Meet the Author events. If you missed those, you'll want to check those out as well. So thank you all. Thank you, Anne.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a wonderful evening, everyone.